Hello everyone, I'm going to be re-recording the GitHub workshop as I figured out some of the kinks. So welcome to the workshop. I'm going to go over a few things and then I will go through some live demonstrations of GitHub and then hopefully in the end show a successful use case of dealing with GitHub online with other people and contributing to other people using branches and basically doing the whole ordeal. Most of you should have an account. If not, you can go ahead and create an account for GitHub at github.com. But first off, it's good to know what actually is going on behind the scenes. So GitHub itself is actually an online hosting service for the version control and software of Git. So Git, just Git itself, is the actual version control software. And GitHub just hosts all of the files and data and stuff using Git. Why is Git important? It's important because having version control is extremely helpful. It's pretty important for things like collaboration, for your own sanity, right? If you're working on your own project and, if you keep up with version control, you will basically have stuff saved and backed up essentially so that you will never hopefully lose anything. And it's a great way to keep track of things as well. So updates, bugs, issues, and stuff like that. So here's a little meme. Right? You don't want to save your work and lose all your stuff because the power goes out and you have a heart attack, etc. So yeah, just use something like Git, a version control software. There are a couple other ones, but Git is the main one. In general, there's actually a couple methods. One would be using like a browser, and in this instance, we're using GitHub. There are actually other hosting services like GitLab and stuff like that. But GitHub browser is one way to use Git with some limitations. Another is using the GitHub desktop app, which is personally my favorite thing to do, and I will go over how to set that up. And if you like writing commands and dealing with things in that sense, there is Git Bash, which is just strictly using Git, the version control itself, linking it up to GitHub, again, the hosting service, and using all that through the command line. Some quick notes. With GitHub, there is a file size cap, so files are not allowed to be over 100 megabytes in size. There is this thing called Git large file storage. I never got it to work, but it's something that exists. Another thing is Git doesn't like long file names. I was doing some research paper stuff, and some of these PDFs had extremely long names, and it would not work. And for some reason, it wouldn't even let me change it. I had to go through the command line to change it. But that's besides the point. There are a couple limitations, is all you need to know. Just quickly going through some of these slides before jumping into a live demo. This is what the homepage looks like usually. There's some cool stuff you can click around, but the most important stuff is usually being on your own profile. So if you click in the top right, you should be able to bring down the drop-down menu and see options for your profile, repos, code spaces, etc., and even settings down below at the bottom. And on your profile, this is what your profile looks like, having the 4 tabs of overview, repositories, and projects and packages. And this is kind of the main screen. You'll probably mostly just be dealing with the repositories. And it also would be good to go through all of your account settings so you can customize things, change your picture, etc. You can change your themes, I believe, under appearance, and change some other things, if you're looking into security or notifications, etc., things like that. In one instance that you will need to go into settings is for if you're using Git Bash. With Git Bash, not only do you have to sign in, but you actually have to use a generated key, which would be under the developer settings in the settings here. So developer settings is, somewhere at the bottom here. I guess I can do this. Developer settings is right there because my mouse is. But you would need to do that for using Git Bash. You would actually have to have a key generated and use that to be able to basically push, which we'll get to. So quickly going through repositories, creating a repository is kind of creating like a directory or a folder. You want to give it a good name reflecting whatever the project is, and a good description so that both for yourself and for other people who may be reading it online, a description of what it is, maybe what it does, how to set it up, or just quick notes like that on what it is. And then, of course, you can make it public for anyone to see. and possibly even for other people to contribute to, which we'll get to later. Or you can make it private, so something only for yourself, a personal project, something like that. Personally, I use both. Some of the things I kind of want to build and share, I will make public, but I also have quite a few private repositories that I use for myself, like some for school, or things for school that shouldn't be shared online so that people can't copy and steal code, etc. When you initialize this repo, it's usually good to add a README and continue with a description, even a longer description. So in this README, you should add what this project is, maybe how it works, if other people can use it, how to download it, how to set it up, etc. What potential this kind of project has, etc. Put all the details on a README. It's a pretty good thing to have. It's a nice document. And then next is this something called .gitignore. So sometimes there are files you don't want to be tracked. So maybe you either have secret files with like passwords or keys or something like that, or maybe let's say if you're making a game, like in one instance I've used Unity, there's a whole .gitignore for Unity files, so that way you're not uploading the same files or overwriting files, etc. It just helps things be a little cleaner and stuff. And then of course a license. If this is a public repo, you want to have a license to make sure people who are viewing this, you tell them what legalities they have. If it's completely open source where they can modify it, change it, possibly even sell it themselves, or if there's copyright, etc. and stuff like that. So it's good to look into the licensing and stuff like that. And to make a new repo, in the repos page, it's the green button. I guess I kind of skipped over that, but hopefully by now you've seen again in the demo I'll show. I'm just going quickly through this. I should just go faster. So this is what a repo looks like. There's a few tabs up top. You have your branches with this big red arrow, and then underneath that shows the actual folder or all of the files and folders in this repo. In the browser, you can click through inside to a folder and use it just kind of like that and see what files or folders are within there. You can even click into a file if you want to edit it. And again, all this through the browser. And yeah, so you can edit and change and add files, upload files, etc. all through the browser. But moving on to the next big topic is branches. So branches are pretty important and definitely good to get used to and get good practice in, because if you do work for a company, you are collaborating with other people. You most definitely do not want to work on live code. Easiest example is you're working on a website. If that website is live, you do not want to be messing with that. If you create a bug or you mess something up, a user or a consumer or whatever might be using it, and all of a sudden something might break. You almost always want to have a safe branch, usually the main branch, for live production code, and then everything else for updates or testing things or changing things, etc. you want to do in a separate branch. So a branch is essentially just a copy either of the main branch, the production, or of another branch. So they're basically just copies and a safe workspace for you to basically do whatever you want. You can go crazy, you can make bugs yourself, etc. or whatever. Obviously don't do that, but it allows you to have freedom, to have full freedom without actually messing anything up in the real world and without pissing off your bosses and managers and stuff. And once you have a branch, let's say you are done with your updates, you fixed the bugs, you made the correct changes that needed, then when it's ready at that level, usually again at industry collaboration level, there's someone who will review the code, make sure it's right, and then at that point, that is when you will do what's called a merge. Or in this case, not being a manager, you'll request for a merge, basically called a pull request. And that basically lets someone know, hey, these things are ready. And so when the day comes for you to push these, take down the live thing and push these updates to the next version of the live production, then you can do that smoothly. And then you would merge these with the main branch, again, completely updating the live production level repo. Okay, you can do a couple things. You can move files, add files, etc. Like I said, all through the browser. And when you do make any of these changes, it will ask you to do what's called a commit again, which will basically take these changes and commit to the branch you're in. So again, hopefully you're in a safe workspace of a branch, a copy, for you to be able to make commits, and so someone can go ahead and review and make sure everything is good. And a note on this is Git and GitHub usually supports quite a bunch of files. Some examples here are pictures, so PNG, GIFs, JPEGs, other files, text files, PDF, zips, and even video. And probably much more, but that's just a quick thing. So to be able to create a branch, you basically want to click on this thing where it says one branch. So right next to main, it says one branch, click that, and that'll take you to the separate thing for branches. And here you can create a new branch. Again, through the browser. There's other methods through Git, like GitHub Desktop or Git Bash itself. And to see all the branches that are currently there, you can click on that little gray button or whatever that says master or main. Master and main are usually the two common names for the default or production level branch. And you should be able to see all the branches that are created. And again, all these are copies. And when you choose a branch, that'll essentially be the focus view of whatever you're looking at. So it'll change in the browser. It'll change all the files and folders to whatever is within that branch, essentially changing kind of which directory or which folder you're kind of in. And when you are done with your branch, you want to do what's called a pull request. And here's a little snippet. A pull request lets others know about the changes you've pushed into a branch in the repo. And so when a pull request is open, it can be discussed and reviewed by whatever collaborators, and you can even further make changes and other commits before it is ready for the time and day for you to merge whatever the branch is to the master branch or main branch, the, again, live production stuff. And to merge, only people with certain permissions are able to merge. So you might be able to create a branch, but you might not be able to merge said branches. And you just do that by, if you do have the permissions, you just do that by pressing the confirm merge and etc. Again, I'll show that in the demo. And once you have a merge, you'll, in the master branch, or in this case, the master branch, it'll show those changes you made within that branch. So moving on to a quick demo. So again, this is GitHub browser. This is what a repo looks like. And I have just clicked into a repo, and I will link this repo in the description as for a later live demo for you guys to try out yourself. But we'll get to that in a bit. So again, we have some tabs up here. Here are your branches. Let me actually, okay, you can see my cursor. So you got some tabs up here. Most of the most common ones will probably be code. Issues are for, if someone else is using it, they can say, I found a bug, color doesn't work, etc. I don't know, something like that. They can create an issue for someone else to look at and take a fix. And then pull requests, we'll go over that soon. And then settings. And there's some settings here. So collaborators, if you want people to collaborate, etc., this is a way to do it. There is another way for a public or open source kind of way, and we'll get to that later. So code, issues, pull request, settings are usually the main ones. So now this is the main code section of the repo. Here's the little gray button that shows all the branches. As you can see, I have two. There's main and there is Ethan. They each have their own kind of separate repo or copy, I guess, kind of. So there's some files and folders here. Here's a folder, can click in it, and it'll show it. And it'll just show all the files. I can go back up to the main thing, and there's some files here. I can click into a file, and it shows me what's in the file. Pretty simple. You can add files, create new files, upload files. As a side note I didn't mention, if you are looking at other repos, other people's repos and codes, you can watch them. You can just watch them yourself, which will give you things like notifications or, seeing things like that. You'll just kind of be watching it. You can do what's called a fork, which will essentially maybe think of it like a branch, but it'll fork someone else's repository into your own account and into your own repos. And we'll get to an example of that in a bit, where I do want you guys to try that. Or you can start stuff. So if you really like a project or software that is on here, you can start it and it'll get added to your stars on your account. All right, so to get to it, you guys should know this probably. There's the green button up here, and this will allow you to copy it. So you just hit copy, or you can, if you have the desktop app, you can just open it, or you can download the zip itself. So for the most part, you'll probably be copying this to be able to clone this repository onto your computer. There are a couple ways. I know with IntelliJ, you can do open from VCS. I guess maybe I can just show that. Okay, so back into IntelliJ, there is a way to clone it through here. To be honest, I don't really use integration too much because it can get wonky with some stuff like that. Again, personally, I use GitHub Desktop, and I'll show you my little thing there. But again, just a quick reminder how to do it here. You go to New, Project from Version Control, and here we're using Git. So these are a couple other version control things, but we're using Git. And then you just go ahead and paste that link there. And then if you want a specific directory, I personally use my Documents GitHub folder that has all of my repos. And we can go ahead and hit clone. So this is a way to do it within IntelliJ. So I'll go ahead and let this go, and I'll do it in this window. And so now I have this whole repository on here. So these are all the files. So there's this text file, right, HTML file, Python file, etc. And looking at some of the tools up here, now it says Git as it is linked with Git. And, you know, there's the options to commit, push, branch, merge, etc. There's a few options. Also, at least within my IntelliJ, there's this commit thing here, which will pull up the commit window and show you some of the changes. And there's also this guy down here, or Alt-9 on Windows, to show you essentially what branch you're in within Git. So with these guys open, I'm just going to make a change to this. Hello yet again. And spell it right. And so now I can see in this commit file, it says that there is something that I changed. There is a change within a file. And if I want to be able to commit this change to update the repository, I can click this. So just to show, if I go back, oh shit. Go away. So if I go back to GitHub here and I go into this Python file, this is currently what it looks like, right? So I have 3 print statements with that little blurb. But on my machine, so okay, I forgot to kind of explain this, but on my machine, there is this. So GitHub, again, is probably the best way to think about it, is like a cloud service. So GitHub hosts all of these files. And so what you see on GitHub is all the currently hosted files on GitHub. Then all the stuff you will be working on will be usually locally. So since I cloned it, I took a copy from the cloud, cloned it to my machine, made a copy of to my local machine, not on the internet, only on my machine. So anything I see, I do, I change will only reflect on my machine. And that is where committing and pushing comes in. As committing will basically take these changes and kind of commit it to a stash of changes. And then when you're kind of done with your changes and you want to push all these changes back to the cloud, so take all the changes you've made from your local machine and put them back to the cloud, that is when you would push. So this is a pretty good graphic of what happens. So GitHub has what's called the upstream copy, right? You can think of that as just like the save in the cloud. And then you have your local copy of the repository. That is what you cloned. So when you push something, when you use the push command, not the commit command, when you use the push command, it will push all the commits, many commits or a single commit, to GitHub, changing what's in GitHub. Now let's say someone else has made a change that they pushed, and your local is different than what's on GitHub. So GitHub has the most up-to-date, and your local copy that you cloned is out of date, essentially. That is when you use the opposite command of git pull. That will take the changes from GitHub, the most current copy, the most current update, and pull those to your local machine so that now locally on your machine, you are up to date. And here's just another little graphic of that. So you have your local copy, and let's say you have a teammate or a collaborate who has their local copy. They make some updates, they make some changes, then they commit and then push those to GitHub. Now GitHub has those. Your local copy is different than both your teammate's copy and GitHub's copy. That's when you use git pull, and it'll take all the changes from GitHub, update your local copy. Now everyone is on the same page and everyone's happy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I already showed that on GitHub these changes are not there yet. So what I can do is commit those, but actually what I'm going to do is copy that. And I think if I do, let's see, roll back. All right, so that undid my changes. What I'm actually wanting to do right now is show you how to create a branch and stuff as well. So now this code is the same as GitHub. There's no changes. What I'm going to do is go ahead and go up to Git and create a new branch. And I'm going to name this testing 1, 2, 3. And go ahead and create and make sure to check out branch. Checking out the branch will make sure that now you will be within this new branch. So as I can see here, there is the main branch and testing 1, 2, 3. So 2 different branches. To be able to tell, it says up here commit to main. Okay, there we go. I think that's what was going on. It was just lagging behind. So what I'm gonna do is again make that change. And so now up here it does say I'm committing to testing 1, 2, 3. And I think this little tag here lets you know that that is the branch you're in. So once you make a change, again, it shows up. I can select the change to make within the Python file. I think you can double click it to show what is changed. So here's my version, and it says there's one difference, being line 4 here. So add new print line, add a good description, and I'm just going to do this one commit and push. So when I do a commit and push, it'll do that, and I go ahead and push to, again, the new branch, not the main branch. And now this branch has all the changes I want. So going back to here, let me reload this page. And now here I see there are another branch, testing 1, 2, 3, that branch I just made. So again, if I go back to Python test here, still has that old change. If I go to testing 1, 2, 3, this branch, it lets me know, oh, just now I made a new change. And there we go. I don't have that blurb anymore. It says print that new print line I just had. So now I have 2 different branches, and let's say this is ready to go to production. I fixed the bugs, I made the corrections, etc., whatever. In this branch, I can go to, it says, there's one commit ahead, and I can go ahead and either click here to open a pull request, or here I can do new pull request, and it gives me a drop down. So I have these couple branches. I want to create a pull request from my branch of testing 1, 2, 3 here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it shows what the changes have been so far. It also lets me know this is the base branch I'm merging to, comparing it to this branch of testing 1, 2, 3. And luckily we have the green light. We are able to merge. So I'm going to create a pull request, letting my manager, as an example, know, hey, these changes are ready. Here's a description of whatever, ready for live production. Sorry about my keyboard. I probably should be muting that. Ready for live production. Go ahead and create a pull request. And now we have a live one. So still in main, nothing has changed, but now under pull requests, I can see this update, this change is ready to go. And I can go ahead and, as a manager, click through here, look at all the commits that have been made, look at all the files that have been changed, all the lines of code, review the lines of code. This is looking good to me. So I can go back here to conversation, and now I can merge the pull request. So this should merge my changes from within this one Python file, so that back in main, the main branch, it should have this new print line. So I'm going to go ahead and hit confirm merge. And being done with this branch, I can delete it. I don't need it anymore. Maybe there's reasons to not delete them, etc. but for me, I can't delete it. So back in here, look at that 2 minutes ago. That's when I made the change to the branch was 2 minutes ago. But now within main, one, that other branch is gone, but two, now I have that change I made in the other branch 3 minutes ago. It successfully merged. So I hopefully covered everything within GitHub browser. I'm going to quickly show the way I use it within GitHub desktop, as I personally don't quite use the integration stuff. It does work, but I personally use GitHub browser, or GitHub desktop, sorry. If you are interested, all you have to do is look up GitHub desktop, and there is downloads. There's downloads for Windows and for Mac. Probably not anything for Linux, because if you're in Linux, you're pretty comfortable with command lines, and you can just use git bash, the command line for git, yourself there. It's a pretty nice UI, and yeah, so I'll just jump into it. So starting from here, usually with when you sign in, it'll ask you to sign in. And so both GitHub browser and GitHub desktop just ask you to sign in. Again, if you use git bash, it'll ask you for a key. So it's pretty nice. You got your menus up top here. And so we can just go ahead and get started. First thing, I like to change my theme. It tells me my account here. There's some other things here, but go to appearance, dark mode, gotta have it. All right. Now to actually get started with repos, you can make a new repo. Again, this will only make a repository on your local machine. It will do nothing with the hosted stuff on GitHub. You can add a local repository. So let's say you already have a folder of stuff that you want to put onto GitHub. You can add that folder. Otherwise, you can go ahead and clone. So that was, again, what we're going to do. We're going to clone a repository. And since you're signed in, it has connected stuff with some stuff to GitHub. But the best way is just to use the URL. So we can go back here, copy the code, copy that same thing, and we can paste that here. And again, it's going to ask you for that local path. I deleted the previous one that I just did, so now I should be able to reclone it. And here we go. Now I'm back in this GitHub Workshop repo, and now it's fairly straightforward. There's a couple buttons, so we got some stuff up here for whichever repository you're in, your current branch. So again, this just shows which branches. If you select one, that will change the files in your local thing, in your local repository. So let's go back to main, and then this is just kind of a refresher. It'll fetch, any updates or whatever. So if there's any changes on GitHub, it'll tell you, or if you've made any changes, and it might just not have updated yet. So you can directly open this in an editor. I think that is my default editor or something. It says, Notepad++. That's what that is. Otherwise, you can just do show in Explorer. And I'm on Windows, and essentially this is GitHub Desktop. It is just a file explorer. So if I wanted to, I can open a file, make changes, just how I would on my computer. And specifically within here, in my documents, GitHub Workshop, within here, literally anything I change in here will appear on GitHub Desktop here. So as an example, I'll just add a new folder or a new file, showing test, I don't know. So I've created a new folder just within my file explorer like I do normally. And look at that, it's already synced up and it shows I've created a new file. Let's say I want to, oops, didn't mean to do that. Shit. Whatever, okay, let's say I want to make changes. So I'm gonna open with, okay, I'll just open with VS Code. All right, I was doing some stuff anyway. So here's this file. Ignore all these other files, just a showing test one. I guess it doesn't show. I will do this. Okay. So if I make any changes here, I'm going to go ahead and save those changes to my local computer. And now it shows up here. It shows my files that I've changed, and it shows the changes I made to that file. So again, I can click and select which ones I want to go ahead and commit, which changes. And there's also a nice history button here, which shows everything I just did. So it shows all the stuff I tried, from a week ago to a couple days ago to what I just changed, 6 minutes ago. and same thing. So now in this box, this is going to be my title. In my description, I'm going to add my description. And now to make changes, I can just do commit to main. And again, this is working within the main branch. I'm going to go ahead and discard those for now and show you how to make a branch or how to deal with a branch. So let's go ahead into this branch here, and it says create pull request, right? But let's say we're not ready yet. So this is just kind of showing you a suggestion here. But now in this repository, I think if I re-click on it, it should show, and let's actually see what's in here. So again, in my main branch, just to quickly reiterate, this Python file has 4 print statements. In here, and in this folder, ooh, too many windows, I'm in a different branch in here, and I only have 2. So like if I change this and go back to main, it's going to change in here. As you can see, the Python got bigger, and I go back to edit. There are my 4 print statements. So again, just to quickly show this, I'm going to go to here, edit, and let's just change this to goodbye world. All right, we go ahead, save those changes, close out of that for now. And now within this branch, it shows the changes. Now I'm going to go ahead and commit these changes. You can see the red is stuff that was from before that got changed, and green is basically new. So red is kind of old or deleted, green is new or added, and then blue is like neutral, nothing, none of those lines changed. So I'm going to commit to this branch, and I just committed. So I just committed this one change, so it's kind of stashed within this push. So I have one local commit, and now I want to push to GitHub to change GitHub. So I go ahead and hit push. Now, if I go back to here, go back to Ethan, now there's my change. So it still only had those 2 lines, but I changed goodbye. Now I want to go ahead and create a pull request to change these. So I'll do the same thing, create pull request, but what actually will happen, it will open up GitHub browser to be able to do this. And look at that, now we have an error. I'm trying to push to the main branch, to this branch I had here, and it said can't automatically merge. So let's just, as an example, let's go through this as there is a conflict. So, oopsie, but still going to create a pull request. And it's going to check avail or mergeability or whatever. It says that there is a conflict, right? So within this one file, there is a conflict. We can check the commits or the files changed. I don't know why I hate all that. Well, another reason I don't use the integration and the IntelliJ is it always adds files and stuff. Anyway, so we can see I changed hello to goodbye. So let's go ahead and fix that. So to be able to resolve the conflicts, there's a nice button here in the pull request in conversation. And let's go to resolve conflicts. So this is telling me 2 different stuff. So this is the stuff from my Ethan branch, and this is the stuff from my main branch. So what I have to do here is go manually through here and essentially tell it what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. And do this and that. And now I should be good. So now I should have changed that first line. I still have the other prints that I want. And I believe this should be good. Okay, mark as resolved, and let's commit merge. Okay, so now we should have resolved that. So if we go back to the files changed into Python, so now everything looks good. We had our 4 print statements, and now we see hello just changed to goodbye. And we have successfully resolved a merge conflict. And we're good to go. It says this branch is good to go, and we just go ahead and merge as we did before. And you can go ahead and delete the branch. Go back to code. And now in main, we have that. And now we have goodbye world. I believe that should cover everything I originally wanted to cover, being the browser, the desktop, branches, merges, merge conflicts, and etc. Now I want you guys to try it. And so I'm going to quickly go through a small example of that. I made another account to test this out to make sure that this works. And we'll show you how to basically be able to use GitHub how you want. If you see a open source software you want to contribute to, this will allow you to. Or if you have friends you want to just contribute to them, this will allow you to. Just to show you, so I'm on my other account where I had already tested this, and essentially to delete this repo, you go up to settings, scroll all the way to the bottom, and can delete this repo. And again, this is on my account. This has nothing to do with the other account that I have. And I have to type this thing, which I guess I can't talk. All right. Now I don't have any repos, and I can do and show you what I wanted to do before. All right, so with this GitHub link that will be linked in the description, you should just be able to go to this repo that is on my Suborg account here. And this is the repo we were just working on 3 minutes ago. I have that merge in Python here. I have my 4 print lines with goodbye. So for me to be able to work on this, this is where forking comes in. So what I'm going to do is go to fork and create a new fork. So this is going to take basically a copy of this repo on this orange account and fork it to my account here now. So I'm going to create a fork. And so I would suggest you guys to go ahead and do that. And so now in your account, you should have a copy of GitHub Workshop. And it says a couple things. It says fork from here. It's up to date with the main, merge requests, etc. But the most important thing is this little button here where it says contribute. This will allow you to contribute to this public repository that was set up to allow anyone to be able to contribute. So what am I going to do? Well, I can go ahead and clone it to my machine, etc., make changes, do whatever I want. Just to keep it easy and fast, I'm just going to make a change in the browser here. Let's choose something else. Let's do the HTML here. And in the browser, I can just select here and do edit, select that little button. And again, let's maybe change this to goodbye. So I have made a change on my fork. I'm going to commit this change to the main branch, or I can create a new branch. I might as well just show you that whole process. So I'm going to create a new branch called testing this 987. And we'll do this, propose changes. So if I go back here, again, this is my fork. So now I have my main branch and this testing 987 branch. No changes here. I go here. Now it has that change I just made in HTML. Goodbye, world. All right. So what I'm going to do is compare and pull request, just like we did before, to show that one more time. Edit HTML. Create a pull request within my own repository. They were able to merge. No conflicts. But I guess this I misspoke. So this actually didn't go from my testing to my main branch on this account. This went from my testing to the main branch within the other account. So as you can see here, only with those with write access can accept this pull request. So I can see back in code, I'm back in Suborg. I am no longer back in my fork. If I go back to my repositories, it's still here. And I still have my branches and stuff. But it says this branch is 1 commit ahead. And I've already opened up a pull request. So I'm going to go back to here and show you that change is not here. And I'm going to hop back on my other account. All right, back on my account, I can see I have this pull request open. And here we go. I can click on it. And this is from a completely separate account, right? So if this is open source software or whatever, there can be other contributors without having to go to settings here and specifically adding collaborators to collaborate in this project. With this pull request open, I can go here, do what I need to do to review, look at the changes, etc., Here's the change. I changed from hello to goodbye as I did exactly. And I can merge it. And merge. Confirm merge. Awesome. Go back to main. Here we go. That change was made 3 minutes ago on my other account, but it is now merged on my main branch, and we can see goodbye world. So I have successfully used a separate account to clone, or not to clone, to fork this repo. Cloning and forking are different. So to clarify, cloning will create your own copy. It will not be linked to the original copy. So it will clone to your local repository or your local machine. Forking will still basically keep a link between that repository, whether local or on GitHub. It'll keep that whole thing connected to the original copy, in this instance on this account here, in GitHub. And so I would suggest doing that. Click on the repo in the description and test this out for yourself. Click here to fork it. This should fork it to a repository on your own specific account. And you should be able to mess around with it, make changes to whatever you want, and then go ahead and create a pull request just like I did. And that should pop up for me. And I'll go ahead and, mess with them and maybe allow people to make changes so you can get some good practice in actually collaborating online. This was not as long as the live workshop, so hopefully this maybe roughly 40-minute video will have gone through everything GitHub-wise, the whole thing on GitHub browser, using GitHub desktop, and how to basically contribute to any GitHub repo that there is out there that is public. Really hope this helped. Really hope this cleared things up. And I hope this helps, especially with GitHub Classroom. I guess one last note on GitHub Classroom is there's maybe a few bugs with the repositories not showing up in your own repository as they are forks, like the fork I just showed. So just to double check, go back through Canvas and click on that link to join, and it should refresh, and you should be able to get that find that repository again for you to be able to clone and mess with and push and everything like that. Thanks for watching. Hope this helped, and good luck in all your Git and GitHub journeys.